Today, and actually the day right before Christmas, we were able to do something pretty great on this daily chart, but the question we're going to have to see that needs to be answered with some further price action is, are we going to reject in some way from this liquidity at this high that we saw a big flush at, or are we just going to be able to gap above it? We'll actually see if we're able to do that tomorrow, and we'll look at volatility towards the end of this video to discuss that, but we're going to get into a bunch of technical analysis, jumping all across these things, so looking for the SPY and the Qs to start off, and let's just get right into it. The first thing that's really good about this daily chart is if we were going to reject after testing bottom Bollinger for the SPY, you would normally do that from the 20, okay? The 20 is where if you do test top Bollinger, you'll notice a lot of the time you'll revert down to the 20. If you get that retest, you can head higher. Well, this here would be a retest of the 20 and then see if you could head lower. Overall right now, you're looking pretty damn good. Now we wanna pay attention to any kind of signals we had like this in the opposite direction, and we're running into a weekly expected move, so it's good to go into these shorter time frames. Looking at the 2 hour, you'll notice that the thing I would really be paying attention to, you know, some people even in my chat coming out and saying, hey, there could be some kind of rug pull once we get to this liquidity, and I'm actually glad you're saying that, because it means you're paying attention to both sides, even though this is a very bullish move that we caught with this little higher low here from our buy zone. So it's great to hear that, just because you're paying attention to both sides, and that's very important. So what are we looking for here? Well, we still talked about how it would make a stronger base in this zone, and it actually would be if we're going to get some kind of sudden drop from here. I'm not necessarily leaning towards that. I'm just going to play the signals as they come. If the 2 hour does cross down, we can head back down into this buy zone, and maybe we even see some kind of divergence pop up. That would be the strongest base, and if you see that base, you are going to see a squeeze later on in January. So we'll pay attention to that. Now we're just bringing up something that could be important. Do we have signals for that right now? No. I think you are more likely to see a minor pullback to retest the 5-day moving average, and we have a daily expected move for that. So for the upside, 604.44. If we are going to gap past all of this, then you at least need to get back above gap above 604.44 in my opinion. But more likely we are going to see this pull down 598.24, or just continue to move sideways before we're able to build up enough liquidity to turn back up this 30-minute MACD. Now we will pay attention for divergences, because this is a decently high point on the 30-minute, so we can pay attention to divergences. If this is just going to pull down for a moment, pull back up, and then set some kind of trap, we will be aware of that. We will keep you aware of it. But right now I'd be paying attention, hey, if the 2 hour crosses over, maybe we're going to make a stronger base. Maybe not, so we might want to be careful with our money at these levels, right? We have those weekly charts that didn't look too good last week, and we got rid of those signals. If they confirm this week, that might be bad. But the other thing that I think is most likely is we keep moving sideways, we pull down to a daily expected move, maybe retest the 5 as it's coming up, and then we're able to see that next curl up into positive territory. Then all we have to do is watch out for a 30-minute divergence. For the daily for the Qs, we noticed that we were able to cleanly take back the 20 a few days ago, and that's fantastic, but we're running into the key resistance level, which is something that we've been paying attention to. So just jumping into the 30-minute chart here to give you guys those daily expected moves. The upside move for the Qs, 533.69 to the upside, and we have 525.51 to the downside. Now, this is where we were going to run into problems, and it makes total sense why we're slowing down here at the end of December. And so if we are heading into the end of the week and we are heading into the end of December, what makes the most sense going into January 1st or going into, say, December 31st, if you will? Well, it would be this pulling down into lower prices, and you might want to watch out if this ends up going like this, because that could be a problem actually, because you do have a 68% chance to close below both of these lines. So I think the more likely thing is, hey, move sideways. Moving sideways is fantastic. We're going to talk about volatility right after this, because I think it's pretty important. But I just want you to be aware that this is moving up really high. We actually notified our Patreon members pretty early on throughout the day, just saying, hey, watch out for some signals up in this area. We could start to pull down. Moving sideways would be fine. But a pullback to retest the 5 is always what you want. I mean, if you always just go back and look, all these moves towards the 5 are very good. It keeps the stock relatively healthy. So we'll pay attention to if it's able to curl down to that 5 and then curl back up, meaning this little blue line here, because you just don't have reversal signals down in this area as it goes for the Qs right now. Now the 2 hour, you'll notice that is going positive. That's really, really good. So if you do get a move down, like further down, I highly doubt we're going to go make a divergence, but I don't want to take it off the table. I do want to see if we can make a higher low if this 2 hour is able to confirm up. But you have to be aware, if this 2 hour confirms down, it is negative territory. And if you do not make that divergence, you can cut out this low and see a full measured move past that low. So just be very, very careful if the 2 hour does curl down. And then we'll be looking for a bullish signal later on if it's going to show its face. If not, hey, we might see some volatility come in and we'll be happy traders because big swings mean big money. Now, the reason I would be aware of some kind of pullback for a couple of days is because the Qs are hitting, oh, sorry, I'm typing a bunch. The Qs are hitting the monthly and weekly expected move today. So it makes a lot more sense to back off from here. Obviously, a short squeeze will not tend to make sense. It will just gap up and keep going and make tons of divergences. It's very difficult to short. So that's why I'm not planning on really shorting this. I'm just going to be like, okay, if volatility wants to come in, I'll catch a bounce and then play some downward plays, play some upward plays, right? I'm very good in a bear market and I love bear markets, so I hope we get one. But I just wanted to show you this 2 hour for the volatility. And we were just paying attention to a 30-minute today and saying, hey, if we can come down and fill this gap, if we hold this trend line, it's going to be a big deal. Look at the trend between the lows. We're trying to hold that at this moment. We have not confirmed down yet. So the 2 hour curling up would mean, hey, volatility is going to come in. Just remember, this opens overnight, so you can see a few 2 hour bars before it starts, and then that could start to subside right away at the open. So just pay attention to if the 2 hour turns up, hey, volatility coming in. And then if that turns back down, hey, we might just be making a move to stay in those ranges for the options market. And then we actually might see this thing squeeze higher with some kind of shakeout right before the next move. I'm just paying attention to the other side. Now, the bullish thing for the volatility index to do, the squeeze signal, is something I'm really leaning towards right now. I mean, if we pay attention to this right now and just flash it up on the screen real quick, VIX 9-day is already crossing down. It's still holding the level, but VIX 9-day is crossing down on a positive bar. That's the only problem I have with it. But if we pull up the VIX again here, I just want you to see this. Drops down to this area, we react back up to the 200 and we get rejected. Now you could say, inverse hammer. Some people think that's a good thing, but I just want to see if that 2 hour curls up and curls back down. Because if this daily does cross, it is leaning towards, hey, we're squeezing down to 1212 and we can remain down there for a long time and make those divergences just like we did in the past, which is something we were leaning towards on this channel. Well, we got that out of the way. We can actually look at things like Apple, and we were talking about how this wick right here touched directly on a weekly expected move. Look at Apple. It really looks like it is running out of steam. I know a lot of other things, like the market in general, the SPY and the Qs, they just have like a 3-day uptrend right now, pretty much. And that is not at all out of gas, in my opinion, but we can always reload and turn back up. So Apple is telling a little bit of a different story, and this is why I would be aware if things pull back a little bit deeper. It's just because stocks like Apple have not received that daily pullback, right? We like daily pullback, so then we can see a good move up. We can collect those buyers near our buy zone and see an upward move. And that's turned out to be very good on the swing trades side of things. But we'll just notice here that if you pull up Apple on the 2 hour, it is still holding that divergence very flat, very sneaky, but it is there. It is flat on your RSI, and it is, I think, is relatively higher on your MACD. So that just tells me I need to be aware that if this does curl down, I have violated it on the MACD here. So that means we could turn down and end up turning right back up, which is something that the market looks like it really wants to do. And if this is a brief curl down and a squeeze up and then we see reversal signals, be watching out for 2025, because we could make one simple divergence on volatility, one simple divergence on Apple, one simple divergence on the SPY and the Qs, and things could start to get a little messy in 2025. So we'll be paying attention. Do we need to be overly worried? I would say Apple is probably the one that I would say is a little bit out of gas at this moment. We're looking at a 30-minute chart and saying, hey, we don't necessarily have reversal signals here, so any 30-minute curl up will be a good thing. I would just watch out if we start to see it again, because this thing is really looking like it is tapping out soon. And we noticed that Tesla was giving some great signals here for the 30-minute, divergence on the MACD, divergence on the RSI. These were great plays to be had, and I'm really enjoying them at this moment. We're seeing the 2 hour able to curl up. So what do we need to be aware of? Well, if that 2 hour curls down. Now, we do have a moment where you could reconnect with the 5 tomorrow and then turn back up. But as of right now, this is leaning towards, hey, I don't have any divergence up here on the RSI or MACD. I mean, that's way extended across right now, so don't convince yourself it's there when it's not. I would more so just be looking at this and going, hey, we might consolidate a little bit on this move up, right? So the reason we're talking about consolidating on the move up is because this was positive, so you're very likely to at least test this high, if not go make a new one. And maybe towards Friday, we're just looking for some building of liquidity before next week, which would make a lot of sense because this 30-minute was able to get high enough to where it can pull back and still remain positive, or at least really close to the center line. And if that 30-minute can curl up, good things. If it doesn't curl up, watch the 2-hour because that thing could be rolling, and that's what I want to pay attention to for Tesla. Amazon, all these stocks, a lot of them are in the same boat. Amazon, again, mostly moving sideways, but reconnecting with the 5, can it curl up again into positive territory? It does not have the reversal signals I would like to see for this thing to see a big drop, but it doesn't mean it's safe, right? It can drop down on the 2-hour and then curl back up into positive territory with a divergence or something like that, but we just want to be aware that that's really close to the center line. So the 2-hour is going to be very important to watch tomorrow, and we will be live tomorrow morning to watch that with you. If you have any questions about any of this or want me to look at a stock, you can come to the live show. If you have questions about our Christmas sale going on for the courses and going into the new year, we will still have that sale. You can grab that over the weekend and learn. The full technical analysis course is always what I preach to people, just because that is really what unlocks you as a trader. That's down in the links in the description. You can literally learn how I trade, how I do all of this stuff, how I catch these kinds of moves, why I wasn't scared of the SPY dropping by tons of percentage on that big bad red day, this big bad red day right here, and why we saw reversal signals and why we were taking calls. You can get all that in the description for just $100 right now, and that is psycho, and we are not doing that sale again until next Christmas. So if you want it now, you got to get it now, or else you got to wait 12 months to get it for that price point. Nvidia, this is actually great for the 2-hour to be able to hold up like it is. It is positive, but is this a safe level on the MACD? Well, in the past, this hasn't necessarily been the safest level for the MACD still, so just be aware if the 2-hour rolls. We were looking for the 30-minute pullback here for Nvidia. Just note this could have more pullback in it. It has not reconnected with the 5. Okay, just be aware of that because that's going to be very important. Maybe we can find a little example of that going forward. Not really seeing one at this moment, so we'll look into it later. But for this, we just want to see if the 30-minute curls up, positivity. If it's curling down, it might have more work to be done down towards that 5-day moving average. Meta, just remember this one does have the daily divergence. Just remember the 2-hour has confirmed up. It can always go for that reload, right? The stronger base for the daily to see a big move, aka you get some kind of squeeze, is actually going to be on the 2-hour. So be open to the 2-hour dropping down, faking a lot of people out, and then you see that thing turn back around. But also be open to that not turning back around, right? The signal is not there until it confirms, and your job is to react, right? That's our job as traders. That's something that you can learn from this channel, is reacting will help you much more. And we have weekly expected moves over on Patreon to help you know, hey, where should I be looking for those signals? So you have an idea, right, of where you should be looking for that type of stuff. Then you can take the course that's really, really cheap right now, and you can learn exactly how we do things. Now, looking at the 30-minute, this was a great signal from Meta going forward. We just noticed that there is triple divergence down here. Meta was one of my favorite ones. There's triple divergence on the RSI, very, very clean down there. And you see the divergence here on the MACD. So fantastic signals with these lows. And we notice, boom, to the upside. So this is where it says, yeah, I want to try to reverse this around. And it did, right? We didn't even have to manage a trade, which is fantastic. Now you're noticing the 30-minute curled down at the end of the day. So what we're doing here looks like we're trying to make some kind of consolidation to head higher, but that's curled down. So we have to be aware of negativity, maybe to quickly reconnect with the 5, see if that whips back up. But I would be more aware of Meta turning down here because you are a little bit closer than other stocks to the center line. So that would mean, hey, if that does curl down, I got to be paying attention to my hourly or 2-hour charts. If we pull up an hourly here, I just like to look at what chart looks the cleanest, and I just know how to look at each one of these. So I just go, okay, this is still negative, and if that would curl down, that actually would lean some probabilities to go down a little bit deeper, right? It would say negative territory means test the low, maybe go make a new one. We can be open to any kind of low it wants to make here, but I think we might get some kind of shakeout, which is very interesting to me if it happens. You're seeing more looks like that on hourly charts from stuff like Microsoft, right? Microsoft, we're noticing, could make another dip down into that zone, and that would be fantastic for the hourly chart. The 2-hour chart might show a brief one, but the hourly might be easier to react to. That's why I'm talking about it. And the reason I'm talking about it with Microsoft and Meta is just because they are closer to the center line. Now, this doesn't have to be some kind of dramatic move like this. It could just come down like this and curl right back up, right? We could be experiencing some kind of pullback that turns back up, but we want to be aware that that's close to the center line. So it would mean, hey, sketchy stuff can happen. And so if this turns down like this, people are going to get really, really scared out. And we just saw that waterfall. So I'm really assuming here, and this is why we're going to talk about the dollar in a second. I'm really assuming here that people are going to think this is going to happen again. It very well can. So we need to make sure our risk is managed if that crosses. And then if it comes down and just turns back up, be paying attention to the signals, right? We're looking for good signals in this area. We want to be open to multiple scenarios. If this doesn't turn down and we just whip right back up after dinking our head on that 5, awesome. Then the 2-hour is still going to go up, and we need that thing to go positive for this to remain a good play for a longer period of time. The reason that we have to be very careful with this 2-hour chart is because you have broken down dramatically. And so when you break these lows in here, you break down dramatically, you are very likely to go retest the breakdown area, which is very simply here at about 446.50, and then you could see that actually reverse back down. So we'll be paying attention to that. AMC, if this 2-hour crosses, not a good sign. I know GME is seeing some good price action. 465 is the crazy level you have to get past to see some upside. And notice the 30-minute. I think this thing is really lackluster at this moment, and the 30 minutes not going to help you out too much, to be honest with this one. Really, the signal, and I'm just going to keep it very simple for AMC, the signal that you need to see in order to get some upside is the daily needs to cross up into positive territory, because you are noticing that you are still holding the divergence across on the MACD and RSI at the same time. So if we're going to get a hint of if this is going to actually pop later on and we get some kind of shakeout, well, then the 2-hour might cross down here, and we actually might see, and I just drew like a little bit of a flag based on where I saw it, so don't take this red line into consideration too much. But if we cross down and then cross back up, you would create some kind of double bottom. So I will be looking for that. And this is, adding this in really looks like, hey, we could see some kind of shakeout in a lot of stocks for a moment here. But if we just gap up tomorrow, we could see the squeeze. Like I'm just looking if we need to reload before we squeeze, or if we actually can actually just go right now. That's kind of what I'm looking for in the market. But for AMC, the daily chart is the most important thing for this. You have the daily has divergence. Do you know what AMC had? The time when it popped off to $100 and something, well, it had a daily divergence at the bottom, and then about 3 weeks later it popped off. So that's what I'd be paying attention to here. GME looks great, honestly. You have a lot of the signals that look great here. You're doing something crazy. You're testing that level. This is where the fight begins. That's why if you notice when I'm live, a lot of people get excited for GME. I'm excited for it too, but I just have this purple line here. And until we are exceedingly past that purple line early on in the week, not towards Thursday, Friday, like we always seem to be when this wants to test it, right? In these areas here, or these wicks in here. I know we tested it at some point up in these areas. It is a good thing for the stock. You have the 2-hour that's positive. You have the daily that has crossed up. That's fantastic. And you have a 30-minute that really looks like, hey, I'm negative again, or I'm turning down again. So this could be a reload period, and then you just curl back up after testing the 5. If the 2-hour does confirm down, we might be in more of a flush down. So just be aware of that and look for 28.35. That would be the point that I see as some great support within all of this going on in here. This is a really, really good level. And we even got a reaction shortly after we made it. We got a reaction down to it to really confirm that, which is fantastic. So you have to be open to the risk to reward each week. And the risk to reward of this week is going down, right? It is saying, hey, we have a 68% chance to do that, 32% chance to do something crazy. And if you're looking for a squeeze, you're going to have to do something crazy, and that is always going to be a lower probability than just staying in the ranges. But hey, I'm not bearish on really anything at this moment until we see some big signals turn down. I think GME is doing some great stuff. I think AMC is just building and building and building, looking like it wants to make a big move eventually. And we have this weekly that is crossing down on a green bar. So I'm not too scared of that at this moment. If that starts to change, if that starts to break the channel, that's what we'll be paying attention to going forward for some kind of bigger crash. Right now, this is way too good of price action. I'm noticing a lot of people as we hit this liquidity are talking about a crash moment, and that is something you want to be aware of. But right now, all the signals look extremely bullish. And if we curl up on this daily chart, even if we have to reload on a 2-hour first or a 30-minute first, we're gonna be happy about it, and most likely the SPY is going to go to a new all-time high, possibly up to 610, even 620 is possible if we're able to even reload here. I think if we reload here, we can get all the way towards 620, so that'll be interesting. But this is the end of the video, so thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to learn about this stuff, those links are down in the description. If you want these weekly expected moves, and we're updating monthly expected moves, and we're giving out the daily expected moves for every stock that we're covering on this channel and more over on Patreon. So you can get that down in the link in the description as well. It will pretty much tell you like, hey, look how this is behaving. We shoot up, we go to a monthly expected move, we see a reversal signal, and we shoot up to the weekly expected move. And that's how we like to do things around here. This is a perfect setup for us. And we couldn't be happier, honestly, with that move. So we just have to see how this move is digested. If it's going to crash back down to scare some people, is it actually going to crash? Or are we just going to see some kind of upward move and keep squeezing? That's what we'll pay attention to. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night. Peace out.